Hey everyone, Mr. Toast here. Just a quick reminder that you can watch the podcast live and interact with us and other viewers on twitch.tv/convictedtoast. I also wanted to mention that we have a Discord server where you can ask us questions and make suggestions about the podcast. Link in the description. Enjoy the episode.
Hey everybody, welcome back to what is this now, the 15th episode of the Mixed Media Podcast. I am Convicted Toast, joined as always by Mikey Nike Rager, and today we are going to be doing an Odd Taxi in-depth discussion. My birthday falls in December, and I convinced Mr. Keegan over here. I was like, for one of our episodes in December, I want to do Odd Taxi. It's one of my favorite anime series. I watched it when it was coming out week by week. It's a good time. And I was like, I want to do that for my birthday, and let's cover it on the podcast. So here we are.
Yeah. Additionally, with your intro, if anybody's like just jumping around the episodes and this is the first one that they found, they're just gonna be like, "What?"
Oh yeah, I introduced us backwards. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
completely. Um, Sam says in the chat, I think I might be having a heart attack. It smells like toast in here. That's a stroke.
Also disproven. Nobody knows what it smells like when you have a stroke.
I feel like there was one guy that sometime in history had a stroke and was like, "Did I leave the toaster on? Or did I leave my toast down or some shit like that?" Maybe it was like in the 50s. Maybe he did smell burnt toast. That's how it
Yeah,
got started.
because the toasters before didn't pop automatically. They just you had to open it yourself.
I am having a stroke. What?
All right.
The Eccentric Driver is the first episode of the series. Let's just hop right in. So this series is really cool. Um, it kind of fell under the radar for a lot of people. Oh, excuse me. Not a lot of people saw it when it was coming out. It wasn't very popular. There are other big things that were coming out that year. I believe it started airing in April of 2021, if my memory serves me correctly.
I think I remember that because we were working at the same place at that time, and you were really excited about it.
Yeah, yeah, I was, and they were going to do well, they did do a physical release of it, and I wanted it so bad, but I decided against it because it was 28,000 yen, which is around 250 American dollars.
Wow,
For Yeah, it was they only sold 500.
that is crazy.
So if you have one, it's probably worth quite a bit of money.
Yeah,
We watch this primarily on Crunchyroll. So if anybody wants to check it out, that's the best destination. I feel like we should have thrown that out there for our listeners, like for everything we watch, be like, yeah, this is on. We watch this on this. That way they
yeah.
can
The
check
only
it out.
time that it becomes an issue is when we watch something like that you already own through like Voodoo or not Voodoo.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, it is Voodoo.
Voodoo. Okay, yeah. Whenever we watch something like Voodoo or something like that, but I mean, at the time, we could definitely like take a look and see what it's streaming on at the time that we upload. Yeah,
For sure. I think that would be kind of if people wanted to check it out and then go back.
yeah,
Um, so this series is about this taxi driver who is a walrus, and it's kind of like a crime. It's funny, and there's a lot of different things going on in it. At the end of the day, though, I think it really boils down to a mystery.
yeah. Largely,
Um, it's set. Yeah, I'm trying to think how I want to explain this. All of the characters are animals. They're anthropomorphic animals, and they're all like representations of either what they look like or what they act like. Um, Sam says, "I will say I haven't seen this whole show, but the music is amazing and it's visually stunning. Yeah, it is really pretty, and
yeah.
I love the music as well.
When we watched the first episode, the intro came on, and I was like, I feel like this intro is lulling me into a false sense of security. And Mike's like, maybe.
Yeah, the intro's very happy. It's kind of lo-fi-esque in a way, and then we just get the show, which opens the first shot immediately after the opening credits is a body being dropped into the water, and like you see like the bubbles coming out, and you're like, what the hell? Uh, so he picks up his first passenger, who's this teenage boy. He's obsessed with his phone. In the intro, we get to see a lot of metaphors for the characters and the things that kind of make the characters. And for the hippopotamus, his ego is inflated by his phone. He is obsessed with the idea of going viral. And in this episode, he does. He takes a picture with the taxi driver. Odokawa is the walrus's name. He takes a picture of him, like just a selfie, and posts it online. And in the background, there is this gangster that is another, I would say, one of the two primary antagonists in the show.
Yeah.
Um, what is he? I know he's a type of ape.
Yeah, I don't quite know, to be honest.
I think it's. I don't know. That's a really. I've always wondered that because like a lot of them I could kind of tell like Kakyun or Kakihana, he's kind of just like a normal monkey,
Mm,
but I'm not sure what Dobu would be.
yeah.
Um, so the post goes viral. Eventually he gets stopped, or this is before the post goes viral. He gets stopped by these two cops. They're twins, the Diamond brothers, and one of them is the little brother is this law-abiding, like I only care about justice kind of cop, and the older brother, he's on the mob's payroll
Yeah.
essentially. Um, it's revealed on the radio that there is a high school girl. She's gone missing, and we see Odokawa in his apartment. He's talking to something in his closet. They don't respond to him, whatever's in there, and he's kind of talking to it. And I think it's after this where we meet Goriki, isn't it?
Um,
In the
thanks.
nurse.
I think so.
So we meet his doctor, who he is seen as a gorilla, and they kind of have this whole argument, which I love. I love listening to the Japanese sub of this show because they get into an argument about this '80s movie that came out in America that Bruce Springsteen is in, and Odokawa, when they're in the middle of their argument, challenges his doctor to try and say Bruce Springsteen 3 times fast without
Mm-mm.
messing up, and you just get to hear this guy with like that's probably spoke Japanese his whole life that just got handed this piece of paper with Bruce Springsteen written on it 3 times. He was like Bruce Springsteen, like trying to pronounce it.
Yeah,
It's really funny.
it's pretty good. There's actually a ton of references in this show, and from what Mike was telling me, there was somebody wrote a review. I don't remember where you said, but they said this anime is pretty much what if Tarantino did like made an anime with the amount of like references there are.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of pop culture stuff, especially like references to American pop culture.
Yeah.
So I need a drink of water there. Oh, Sam says in the chat that he is a baboon. That makes sense.
Okay.
That makes sense. Um, yeah, we get a really cool pop culture reference scene in a couple episodes that I like that we could talk about. So the cop takes the SD card from his dash cam, all of his footage, and he's like, "We're pretty positive that that missing high school girl got in your cab last." And then after this is when we meet Kakiana, and he's on this dating app. He's like in his mid to late 40s,
Yeah.
and he's not getting any matches, so he raises his income to like an obscene amount that he probably hasn't seen in like 10 years of working.
Yeah.
And
It's a lot.
yeah, it is a lot of money. We looked it up, but I can't remember what it was, but it was a lot. Um, so I'm trying to think of. Oh, the nurse. I'm pretty sure the first episode ends with the nurse. She gets a ride,
Yeah.
and we see Dobu in this alleyway kind of handing something off. And oh, he gets the SD card. That's what it is. The cop gives him the SD card, and we see that the cop is on his payroll. So,
Yeah.
what were your like initial thoughts when you saw the first episode?
It's very interesting because with hindsight, of course, the first episode you're kind of like, I'm not sure really what's going on just yet. And all of this is just laying groundwork because every single character that we get introduced to in the first episode reappears throughout the entire course of the show. So the first time that we're being introduced, I'm like, they're name dropping all these characters, but I haven't actually had any screen time with them. And then as the show progresses, you get more. But that first episode, you're very much like, what am I about to get into?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I remember when I watched it, I started it, I think when either the first 2 or the first 3 episodes were out, and I think it was the first 2, and then I watched it weekly after that. And it was really interesting because the first episode kinda grips you. You're immediately like, "Okay, this is kinda dark. What's happening here?" There's that cute baboon is a mobster,
Yeah,
and one of those dogs is a dirty cop, like,
yeah.
it's
What's even
it
crazier about it is the way that they like uh so in the first episode we don't really know much about Dobie. We just keep hearing like people reference him like on the radio. They talk about him. I'm pretty sure when he gets stopped by the older cop, he mentions him, and it's like you don't really know much about him just yet. You just know that he's like just wanted, like a wanted criminal.
you don't really get a lot about him, you just kind of see him in passing in the first episode.
Yeah,
You know, I agree with you. Uh, the second episode, we start off with, a conversation between Odokawa and Kakihana about, the nurse. He's talking to him about how they traded phone numbers, and that's when Kakihana gets the match of the Calico Cat, who we will find out more about her later, but he gets a match, an 18-year-old girl. I'm pretty sure I remember now he's 56,
yeah,
if memory serves me correctly, because it was right there where it said his age. He accepts the match, of course, because he's 56 and single, and it's an 18-year-old girl.
yeah,
So, then we get to see, well, we get a little taste of who they are in the first episode. Not a lot, but we get to see Mystery Kiss, who's kind of like this J-pop idol group, up and coming female singers. They are pretty much integral to the plot.
yeah. They definitely are.
Um, and then we get introduced to Imai, who is this like super obsessed fan that was at Mystery Kiss's first show that they ever did, and he will buy all of their merchandise. He wants to see every show they do. Pays for all the meet and greets. I mean, he is like super fan.
Yeah, he it's funny because he ends up in Otokawa's cab at one point. He's like, "Hey, I need you to take me here for like I can't remember how much he says. Um, it's like what 10,000 yen or something? Not 10,000. It's
I think it was like 5 or 6, and it was 8. He didn't have the rest of it. He tells him that he's gonna buy a lottery ticket.
yeah. He's like, you had money for a lottery ticket.
Um, we kinda get a little bit of a glimpse, some hints about the band, they're the band, sorry, I don't know why I said band. Um, 2 of the girls are not allowed to show their faces at all.
Yeah, they wear masks.
Yes, they're contractually obligated to wear masks for their debut concert. Their manager is this corgi dude. Um,
Mr. Peanut Butter.
he's Yeah, Mr. Peanut Butter. Those of you, that's a BoJack Horseman reference if you haven't seen it. Um, and he's kind of a prick. He tells 2 of the actual singers to sell the leftover merchandise outside, even though they're the performers.
Yeah,
So they're definitely, we get some hints here that they're kind of tight on money. Um, and they kind of have this conversation between Otokawa and Imai, and they're talking about Mystery Kiss and just how big of a fan he is. And Otokawa is asked, "Hey, can you give me some lottery numbers?" And he like pulls up this picture from the locker room that he was in at one point, and he just reads off like the numbers that were on the lockers. He's like, "Cool, I'm gonna go buy a lottery ticket." And then he picks up this boar and a horse, who is Baba and Kensuke, who are these two comedians. We heard them a little bit in the first episode and a little bit earlier in this one. They're basically these struggling comedians called the Homo sapiens, ironically, and they're not very funny. Uh, they've been trying to break through for a few years and see success with their comedy, but it just kind of hasn't been working. And they're fighting in the back of his car or his taxi, and the horse, he receives a phone call, and they're like, "Hey, do you want to be on this daytime food show?" And he kind of looks at him. He's like, "I got a call to be on a daytime food show." He's like, "Oh, cool. When do we start?" He's like, "They just want me." And we kind of get this impression from their conversation before that the boar he's super focused. He's very determined to get what he wants. Meanwhile, the horse is kind of carefree.
Yeah.
He doesn't care if they make it or not, and it's kind of funny and ironic that the horse gets the big break
Yeah.
and the boar's kind of left in the dust. And I believe right after they drop him off, he gets another cab fare, and it's Dobu. He pulls out a gun and holds Otokawa at gunpoint.
Yep. Which going from the beginning, like through the first episode, you're like, okay, this is interesting, and then having the second episode end with such a huge cliffhanger. Which Sam in the chat said we should at some point discuss the difference between how I binged it and you watched it over time and see what like the contrast.
Oh yeah, we should definitely open that up after we get through the episodes.
Yeah.
Can I pin that in the chat? Yes, I
Yeah.
can. I'm gonna pin it for uh 90 minutes just to be safe.
Okay.
Oh, that works. There we go. Cool. So we can get to that. That's actually a really good question. We actually talked about that, I think, a little bit at the end when we
Yeah.
finished
When
it.
we were getting towards the end, you were like, you have any theories? And I was like, not yet. It was a very different experience, but we'll get to it. We'll open up that can of worms later.
Yes, definitely. Um, so the third episode is I would say that the third episode is where the show really starts to show its strength.
Yeah.
Um, we don't open on Otokawa in the taxi. We open on the sauna. And there's this really funny scene where Kakeana thinks that this giant, what is he, a tapir?
Yeah, tapir or tapir. I don't know how you're supposed to pronounce it, but
He's like this gangster boss dude, and Kakeana thinks that he's talking to him about Otokawa. He's like asking all these questions, and Kakeana's answering him. He's like, "Oh my god, he's in big trouble." And he realizes that he was on the phone the whole time and he wasn't talking to him at all. And then we see the phone call again from Dobu's perspective, who he's on the phone with. I love that scene. It just kind of goes back and shows you um, just the two different perspectives of that. Do you want to start talking about the taxi ride and
what is it?
between right after the sauna, we get back to the taxi ride with Otokawa and Dobu.
Oh, so uh Dobu gets in the car and he has him at gunpoint. What does he say to him? I'm trying to remember.
I can't remember either,
I'm
like
com-
off the top of my head, what he
yeah,
says to
I'm
him.
like blanking on the scene. I like I know what happens, but I can't remember like the whole
Uh,
thing.
they're they're talking about the dash cam SD card.
Yeah. Um yeah, because they're talking about the high school girl still, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah. Because at this point they still think that it's Otokawa that like kidnapped her.
That and Yano is Dobu says that Yano is spreading false rumors about him, which is the first time that Yano's name gets dropped.
Right, which Mike has a small obsession with Yano.
That's
Since you,
why I turned off
yeah,
my camera for this part. I
uh,
didn't actually need to turn it off. It was just for the bit.
yeah, just to put Yano on screen for you guys.
I'm gonna leave it off for a second, just to let you soak in Yano. Audio listeners, Google a picture of Yano from Odd Text. He's a little porcupine guy.
Yep.
We get more of him later, but this is the first time his name gets dropped, and there was originally supposed to be this scene that played. It got cut. Uh, it's on YouTube. I made Toast watch it for the podcast, where it's just him singing, and half of the lyrics are literally just "I am Yano."
Yeah, and needless to say, he listened to this song about 4 times a day for about a week.
I did. That song goes really hard. It slaps. It's a great song.
Yeah, which Yano's a very interesting character. We'll talk more about, but just to let you guys know, he only speaks in rhymes.
Yes, he literally raps everything that he says.
Yeah, and
Uh,
it's pretty
oh, good.
entertaining.
It is 100%. If you want to keep going, you can. This is when he turns the distress signal on mid conversation.
Sam said, "Don't worry." He did that when he first watched the show too.
I did. That song is so good.
Okay, where were we?
When Otokawa puts the distress signal on in the taxi.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, there's a button underneath the seat he turns on, and the cab's what do you call it? It's like a marquee almost. I don't know what else to
Yeah,
call
it's
it.
like an SOS signal, pretty
Yeah.
much.
It starts flashing and giving an SOS. And as they're driving, Otokawa is basically just trying to get Dobu to keep talking, until he finally encounters a cop that's like, "All right, stop, pull over." And Dobu and as soon as it happens, Dobu is like, "All right, we're about to see how lucky you are," and of course, walks up the senior brother who is
On the
in the
take.
fold. Yeah,
Yeah, he's on the take. I love that scene where it's kind of like in both of their heads, and they're both wondering, is it going to be the older brother or the younger brother? And
right.
we get to reveal that it is the older Diamond brother.
Yeah.
My camera back on. You guys
Welcome
had enough
back.
of Yano.
Welcome back.
Thank you. So Dobu's like, listen, uh, all I want you to do is not hand this SD card over to anybody. And if anybody asks you for it, you call me, tell me who did it. He's like, why would I do that? He's like, I'll kill you. He's like, I'm not interested in that. Like, kill me. He's like, you're not afraid of death. And Odaquan says this line I love. Did you really redeem your not a sloth sit up? Are you kidding me? I'll honor it. So he says this line that I really like, where he's like, "You're not afraid of death," and Odakoa says, I'm extremely afraid of death, but this just sounds like a pain in the ass." Eventually, he's like, "I'll kill the nurse." I'm trying to remember her name. I think it's Shirakawa.
uh,
Shirakawa.
Chiricahua.
Shirakawa.
Yeah.
That's it. And he's like, "Shit." He sees like the sweat like dripping down his face, and he's like, "Ah, I found a weak spot." So he's like, Dobu gets out of the car. I'm like slurring my words. Dobu gets out of the car, and Odakoa checks his phone. He sees he has a text from the nurse, and he's like, "Oh shit!" So he takes off, flying down the road. He swerves his taxi in front of someone named Tanaka, who we'll talk about more in the next episode. The next episode is probably my favorite episode of the series. But he swerves in front of this guy. We don't get his name then. We just see him swerve, and the guy drops his phone.
Yeah.
all we see
And
right
we
now.
do get a quick flash on the screen. It says super rare dodo, and you see a
Yes,
picture
yes.
of a little cartoon dodo.
So Odakoa makes it to the park, and this is a really I love this scene between him and Shirakawa. She's basically saying like, "Look, I could defend myself. I could do this. What is it? Capiora? Capiera? I don't even know how to say it. It's like a martial art.
Oh yeah, I'm not sure how it's pronounced either, to be honest.
Capoeira. I'm so sorry if anybody knows what I'm talking about and I'm pronouncing it wrong. I'm trying my best. I know it's a Brazilian martial art,
Yeah.
and she's doing it, and like this like beatbox music starts playing, and he's like, "All right, like, do you really think that's gonna save you here?" And then she starts doing it again. He's like, "Please, no more." um, so he drops her off at work. He's like, they have this sweet moment. He's like, "I'm not even gonna run the meter for you," and they go back to this like there's this cute little like ramen shop where him and his friends meet, and he meets with Kakiana, and he's like, I got this date, and he shows him to her, and Odako is like 18, bro. And he's like, why would she want you? And he's like, I don't know, sometimes it's about more than looks and all this shit. And they kind of fight for his phone, and Odakoa gets it, and he looks and he sees that he lied about his income, and Kakehana's just sitting on the ground crying. He's like, just let me dream. Um, then we get this kind of revelation after that the Dr. Gorky, he's missing, and Kakehana's going out for his big date. He's at this bus stop, and he sees the calico cat, Ichimura, and we get this kind of pan back, and we see that he's being followed by Yamamoto, who is the corgi, and this new character. He's like a polar bear. I can't remember his name for the life of me. He's a polar bear
he
though.
was a he was a tracksuit.
Yeah, he wears a track. Yeah, he wears a tracksuit. He's a gangster. He's a polar bear.
He's got a scar on his face.
He does have a scar on his face. You're right. So, would you agree with my consensus? This is kind of where the show like really starts to pick up.
Yeah, because it,
And
it
like,
kind of puts the stakes on the table. Up until this point, like we just kind of like none of the characters are connected yet. They're all like I've met this person, I met this person, but they don't have any real connection just yet. They've just been like cab fares, or they've been somebody that Odokawa's been dealing with in his daily life up to this point.
yeah, I think this is where a lot of the menace starts to kind of
Yeah.
sink in, and we start to see this thing is pretty big, whatever's going on. And then the next episode takes a complete break from everything we just talked about.
Yeah, it takes a moment to go back, and we get a introduction to what was his name again? I'm sorry,
Tanaka.
Tanaka.
He's like
Um,
I think he's a cat.
I don't know
Can't
what he
really
is.
tell. Yeah, he's one of the only ones that's kind of, or you know what? I think he's a puma.
A puma? Maybe. I don't know.
Let me look up a puma.
Okay, take your
Hold on.
time.
I'm curious now.
He's curious,
Yeah,
Trey.
he's a puma,
Okay.
I
Sim
think.
says you guys should also analyze at the end what you think. To choose the animals for each the not obvious characters. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, we could do that. It's another cool one to do. I'm gonna pin that as well.
So, we get it opens up with a Tanaka speaking about like his early childhood, um talking about how when he was in school there was a fad where people collected erasers, like rare erasers.
Mhm.
um and he was obsessed with this eraser he had that was from I think he said it was from his uncle, or like his something like that, like an
Yeah,
uncle that would
somebody
travel
who,
abroad.
yeah.
They got him this rare dodo eraser that he was super fond of. And there was another classmate that was collecting erasers that had like way more connections and money to be able to have these rare erasers. Kind of going into a whole thing of, you know, how could he beat him, where he sees he's browsing online one day at school using one of the computers, and he sees somebody's auctioning for this one um like unique, only one ever created eraser of, what is it?
He's like a comedy performer named Don Riku.
Yeah. Um and the initial bid, what's the initial bid start at? I can't remember.
I I think it was only like 5 or 6 thousand yen.
Yeah. Which isn't a whole lot.
No.
Um and he basically devises this plan of, how am I going to get this eraser? And so he ends up taking his father's credit card, and once a day he goes on, puts a bid down, and somebody else starts competing with his bid, and he's just lowballing it. They'll be like, so he'll do like 6,000 yen, and then somebody's like, all right, 10,000, and then he's like, okay, 10,001.
Yeah.
um
Yeah, I think it's important real quick to mention that the user's name is Ditch11.
yeah, ditch 1-1. And so each day he keeps coming back, and it goes up a little bit more. He keeps lowballing it, and mind you, he is using like his brother's computer to do this, so he's not like allowed to be on it for an extended amount of time. And it comes down to the final day of the bid, and he's sitting there thinking, you know, I had to raise again. As his brother comes into the house, he's sitting there panicking. He doesn't know what to do. He adds an extra zero, which totals out to, is it 1,000,000 yen?
100,000.
100,000 yen, which is approximately like $800 for the time period, because we estimate it's like early 2000s at the time.
It's 700 right now, so it's probably around 500, I would say then.
Yeah. Um,
He spent $500 on an eraser.
yeah. $500 eraser. Uh, so he goes about it about this time, because he wins the bid, goes about his time, you know, panicking and waiting, and the eraser never shows up. And he's keeps thinking about the fact that the browser said no returns, no refunds. There's no way he can get that money back.
He got
And
scammed essentially.
yeah, we get this terrible, terrible scene when his father finds out about the credit card statement. Oh, it's honestly hard to watch.
Yeah, especially because 'cause they're animals.
Yeah.
He, like,
Um,
kicks his son into a wall, and he breaks a table, he's just, like, punching him and shit.
yeah. And then his mom's trying to hold him back as he just passes out on the floor with a black eye. It's very, very difficult to watch.
Yeah, it's really dark. I feel like it's also important to mention that during this time when he was getting the erasers and everything, he got a gray cockatiel as a, gift, a
Oh
bird.
yeah, that's right. No, I almost forgot to mention that. So he had a gray cockatiel, because he mentioned that he always loved birds. Um, so we jump forward a few years in his life. I think it's, how long
It's
is it?
4 years before the events of the series.
Yeah. So we jump ahead a little bit, and he's now working as a is he a game developer or something?
Yeah,
What is
he's
he?
a game
Yeah,
designer.
he's a game designer, and he always tries out like free to play mobile games and stuff. And one day he discovers one called, what, zoology,
Zuden.
Zuden, where the whole like objective of the game is to collect rare animals and like get more and more. And we progress to the point when he realizes that he has spent over 5 million yen on this one game trying to get a super rare dodo. It's the rarest animal in the game. Uh, so one night he's like, you watch his life as he's just disheveled, spending so much of his time and money on this game trying to get a rare dodo, competing with somebody named Ditch11,
Yep.
who is
Who
the
has
number
first
one
place?
leaderboard.
It's $35,000, by the way, in the U.S.
35,000.
35,000 is how
Oh
much
my,
he spent.
oh my god.
uh,
That's crazy.
he starts like becoming more and more obsessed with this game. He wants this rare dodo, this ultra rare dodo, because it's just like the eraser he had when he was a kid. And he finally gets it, and Odakoa swerves. We see his taxi swerve around the corner. He drops his phone. It hits the ground. And this is really interesting. It falls into a ditch, which is the name of the guy that he was competing with
Yeah,
the whole time. And then that's how he loses his phone.
yeah,
He is like fucking panicked. He goes to where Toast works and he's like, hey, repair my phone and give me my backup data. And they're like, okay, sure. He's like real freaked out. And he realizes that the app didn't save his progress
yep.
and he is devastated.
He lost the rare dodo.
He's going home, he's depressed, and he gets there and his cockatiel is dead.
Um, and up to this moment, like you see the like absolute despair and like disconnection in his eyes. Like it's like you can almost sense like he's going into like psychosis where he's just completely separated from reality.
Yeah, exactly. He just does not have a will to live anymore. He lost his bird, and he was trying to get this other bird on this app, and he finally did. So he goes to bury his bird, and we didn't mention this in the third episode, but Dobu buries a revolver after he threatened Odakoa with it. And coincidentally, when Tanaka is burying his bird, he finds the revolver. And we get this final shot in the episode where Odakoa's taxi is going by and Tanaka's just staring at it.
Yeah.
Um, so I absolutely love that episode. That is my favorite episode of
Yeah,
the whole
I
series.
think the way that it cuts away from it entirely, like from what was already being set up to just explaining the backstory for this one character to make you understand everything that he's gone through, everything that he's lost, up to this point, only to have to finally get what he was what he was after, and have it taken from him, and what that does to him.
Yeah, and it's just and then the connection that brings it right back around to the main story is so good. I love just the little coincidences, like him turning his taxi on that corner and him deciding for that spot to bury his bird.
Yeah,
It all just kind of links back together. Um, so the next episode, episode 5, is called "Don't Call Me an Idol," and we open with the corgi man Yamamoto. He's like, "Hey, taxi," and Odakoa picks up him, Ichimura, and Mitsuya, and they're talking about their likes and dislikes. Mitsuya is like, I love fried chicken, and Ichimura is like, I like bats. And he's like, Odakoa's like, huh, I dropped off a girl near that office 2 weeks ago, and Yamamoto's like, you what?
no, you
What
didn't.
did you? Yeah, he's like, do you have your dash cam data? I want to make a music video with it. And he's like, I can't tell you that. I have to check with, this and this and privacy laws.
Yep.
And Yamamoto's just like, okay. And Odakoa kind of looks at the Ichimura a little bit. She's like, here he's like, you're a calico cat. She's like, what? He's like, I don't see very many calico cats. And we, the audience, know that that is the girl that Kakayana's been talking to. She is one of the idols.
Yep.
So immediately after this, we see Tanaka. He's still going after Otokawa, and he's following him in this taxi close behind, and he's following him down the road. The taxi driver that is taking Tanaka after Otokawa's taxi, he's like, "Oh, this is so exciting! It's like a movie. I've always wanted to do this." Um, Dr. Goriki, he reappears. He's like, "I'm gonna close my clinic. We got medicine missing."
Yep.
And I'm pretty sure it's Shirakawa, but it's because she's in a lot of debt.
Yeah.
And, and Dobu meets up with him again, and he's like, are you holding Shirakawa and like using her against me, or trying to use her in a way that hurts me because she owes you all this money?" And he's like, "Yeah, I am." and
Yeah.
yeah. And in return, Odeko is like, "All right, this corgi looking dude wanted to buy the dash cam data on Yamamoto." And we see the date between Kakehana and Ichimura. They're at this like really fancy like restaurant, and Kakehana like raises his wine glass, and he's like, "Ah, more wine!" And the guy comes over and is like giving him a funny look, and he's like, or she tells him usually they'll come over to the table to do that. He's like, "Oh, so that's how they do things here." And
I,
Ichimura is looking through. Huh? Good.
I was, the way you paused, I was like, Mikey Nike Rager.exe has stopped working.
I was thinking there for a second about what happened next. Um, she sees this picture of Imai, and it's the reveal that the lottery numbers Oda gave him worked. He wins 1 billion yen, which, let me put this back into the converter. I don't. Let me just do this. There we go.
You just got doing math.
It's like 7 million. Wait,
So
no,
let's.
that's
Oh,
that's a million. Hold on. I don't know. It's not giving me 1 billion for whatever reason. 1 million is equal to 7,000 US. So just take that times 999, you'll get close.
I think
Um,
that's how the conversion rate works, but okay.
it's close enough. Um, then she's watching this other video, and it's the Walrus guy. He blew up because of the photo that he took of Dobu, and he's like, "I'm gonna hunt him down. I'm gonna kill him. I'm gonna be the one to," or no, he wants to bring him to justice and get him to confess. He's like, "I'm gonna do it, me." He's like feeding into like his fame, and they get finished eating, and he pays for it in cash. He's like, "Oh my god!" When he looks at the bill, and when they get up, he drops a receipt, and it was a receipt for a loan for $100,000 that he took out so he could take her to dinner.
Yeah, that's just. Oh, it's such
That's
a
rough.
terrible reveal. You're just like, God damn it, you know?
Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah.
Um, uh, yeah, ugh, I feel really bad for Kakeana, even though he's a little bit creepy.
He's a little bit creepy, a little bit foolish. Uh,
A little bit of a goofy guy.
I don't have anything to defend him with. I'm just pointing that out.
Yeah. I don't. Uh, so the next episode, uh, Imai gets an Odako as taxi. He's like, "Oh my god, I won the lottery, and come, I work at this cabaret club." He's like, "Since you won't let me give you like some of my winnings, let me give you free service for life." And they go, and Odako is definitely like does not want to be there. He's like really awkward, and there's girls sitting all around him. And then Tanaka shows up. He's wearing this skull mask, and he has a revolver. And Odako, he takes off to the bathroom, and Imai comes in. He's like, "What? What? Who is that?" And he's like, I don't know. I don't know who he's after." And Odakoa is able to escape, and the other comedian, the boar, he's kind of like, "Hey, why are you doing this?" And he distracts the guy wearing the skull mask. He's like, What are you doing this for?" And he distracts him, and he gets down to the parking lot, and we see that the man in the skull mask was targeting him, which we knew, but he realizes at this point
Yeah, he
because
sees that
his
his the window in the back seat has been broken.
yeah, his taxi's been broken into. They didn't take anything, but it's been broken into.
Yeah, we also get this line from the boy because as we see Otokawa running, we hear a gunshot and it jumps back, and there's a bullet hole above the boy as he's sitting on the ground. He's like, I don't know why I thought it'd be funny if I got shot.
um, so Dobu, I'm pretty sure it's Dobu and Odaka, or no, it's Shirakawa that tells him. Uh, she tells him that she originally approached him because Dobu wants to use his taxi in this, like, he wants to do a robbery. He wants to rob this bank, and she's like, I owe him 3 million yen. It's a shit ton of interest. I've been in debt for over 4 years.
Yep.
And Odaka was pissed, and he tells her, never contact me again. Uh, then Dobu meets up with Odako again, and he shows him the video of the hippo. He's making some wild accusations. He's saying that the man in the skull mask at the cabaret club was Dobu, and Dobu's like, "Well, shit, that's my gun,
Yeah.
but that ain't me.
Yeah.
That is
Exactly.
not me." And he's like, "Listen, if you help me catch this walrus dude, I'll be able to get Goriki's clinic back and running full time. I'll help you find Tonica, and I'll take away all of the debt that Shirakawa has." And they make a deal, and then we get this cute little scene between Baba, the horse, and Nikaido, who's the lead singer of Mystery Kiss, and it's revealed that they're in a relationship together,
Yep.
and it's a really sweet scene between the two of them. They're talking about their successes as performers. I really like it.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. Is there anything you want? Wait, Pokemon Go down horribly bad?
Uh,
Oh,
she was talking about
Kakihana.
the Zuden as Pokemon Go.
Right, but the down horrendous is that Kakihana, I'm
Yeah.
assuming.
Yeah.
He is down horrendous. Uh, so the next episode is our first, like, holiday themed one. It's called Trick or Treat, and they kind of come up with this plan that because it's Halloween, Dobu's going to go around wearing the skull mask. Like, that isn't going to arouse any kind of suspicion. He's like, people can't see my face.
Right.
There's other masks. um, so they kind of realize that. I'm trying to remember how this one starts. I know they come up with the plan to look for Tonica and to look for the hippo dude. And then I know Otakawa, this is when he's walking down the street, and he runs into Yano. Is that in this one? That's in this one, isn't it?
Uh.
Yes, it is, because he bumps into
Yeah.
him when he's
Yeah.
riding his scooter. Um, so I think that's a little bit later. I'm pretty sure what happens first is Otakawa calls the police because the younger brother shows up, right?
Uh.
I'm almost
Uh.
positive that's in Trick or Treat.
Is that when there's like a bullet hole in his wall?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we completely
this
forgot
is
to
when we
mention
get
that.
to this is when we kind of get Otokawa's plan.
Yeah, he somebody shot through his window, and there's a bullet hole in the wall. He calls the younger brothers. Younger brothers like, "Don't you have a girl kidnapped here?" He's like, "Dude, uh, by the way, your older brother is in Dobu's pocket." He's like, "No, he's not." And he's like, "Dude, listen to me. He is. Trust me here." Uh, and he's like, "All right, I don't believe you, but I'll continue to listen if you come up with anything else."
Yeah, there's actually
Uh,
kind of a sadness behind the story because he's like, we always swore that like, me and my brother always swore that we would, stop evil. And when Otokawa was telling him like your brother has like sided with evil, he's like, that's not possible. And we also,
y-
is it in this moment we get the reveal as to why both of them don't like taxi drivers?
I can't remember, but we could talk about it regardless.
Yeah, so the two brothers end up, they kind of had this thing against taxi drivers because their parents were killed by a taxi driver.
Yeah, and they've always like had this grudge against them, just all taxi drivers
Yeah.
after that. Then an unidentified female body is found in the river nearby.
Yep.
We get all of these news articles about it. We don't know who it is yet, but a body's been found. Uh, Goriki and Shirakawa kind of have this heart to heart. He's like, I understand that you worked with Dobu. I understand everything. If you want forgiveness, help me find a way to treat Otokawa. So we get this. He has this like picture of his brain, and this is the first point. Well, one of the first points we're kind of like, huh.
Yeah. Like, um, they start giving you like, we're gonna try and fix Otokawa's condition, which to this point we didn't really know he had like an actual condition per se.
Hmm.
This is the first we get to really hear of it, and then we get this image of his brain, which suggests that there's something going on mentally.
Yes. Um, and then Kakehana um, goes to meet his girlfriend, and he is taken by Yamamoto and the polar bear.
Yeah,
And then Odaqua's this is when he's walking down the street. He bumps into Yano, and he goes to this whole thing like he's rapping at him, and he's like, "All you had to do is say excuse me, man." And he's like doing this whole rap, and Odaqua's like, "I'm sorry." He's like, "There you go. Now how hard was that?" And he's like, he just like rides away on his scooter,
yeah.
and
My favorite thing
Odaqua's just
about it
standing
is he's going off on like the whole like rap spiel, and the entire time Otokawa was just staring at him with this blank expression, like what the fuck?
there. Yeah. Um. After this, Odaquan meets with Dobu at this diner, and it's revealed Mystery Kiss is playing somewhere nearby. They see that another dude wearing a skull mask, Dobu, assaults him violently,
Yeah,
and they realize that it's not Tanaka, it's just a random ass dude. And then we see the Walrus, he's making a video of Dobu fucking beating this guy, and he posts it. And then we go back to this wharf where Kakeyana is being held, and Yano comes out of the shadows, and that's kind of where we end this episode.
yeah.
So for the opening of this next one, I gotta.
Bro,
It is
uh,
very
what episode
necessary.
are we on now? Is this 6 or 7?
This is 8.
Oh shit. Okay.
This is bless you. So do you want to start or should I?
You go ahead.
So they're torturing Kakeyana. They're trying to get his money. Yano comes in and he starts rapping about his debt. He's like, this dude's poor. Um, and Odakuwa gets contacted by Yamamoto, and he's like, "Hey, could you take me to the wharf?" Um, Odakuwa offers to sell him whenever he picks him up. He's like, "I'll sell to you for $1 billion, the dash cam." And he's like, "What, a billion?" He's like, "Yeah, I already had an offer for $1 billion." He's like, "Shit. Sure, buddy. I'm sure you do." So they get there and they find out that they've been running a badger game with two of the girls from Mystery Kiss. They owe Yano a lot of money because Yano kind of like funded them to get up off the ground when they were starting out as musicians, so they're in his pocket. And there's another reason why Yano or they're in Yano's pocket as well that we'll get into a little bit later. And Kakeana's still like, "Ichimura, I'll save you. Don't listen to these guys." And she's like, "I fucking hate you." Like,
Oh,
she is so harsh.
yeah.
She's like, "You're a fucking dirty old man.
And you're broke.
Yeah, you're a broke, dirty old man. I hate you. And let me go take a bath." And they're discussing, and Yano and the two henchmen kind of come up with this plan. Imai won the lottery and that he's gonna spend it on Mystery Kiss. And the manager's like, "Oh, let him spend the whole billion." And Yano's like, "Why don't we just, even if he spends 800 million, there's still 200 million, he's not spending. So let's just take it all."
Yeah. Which Sam in chat said that 1 billion yen is about 7 million USD. So
Huh. That's it's not as much as I thought it would be.
it's still a
That's
lot.
still a lot. Yeah. That's just not like a I don't know, like our lotteries are like 500 million.
Yeah. It's more money than you or I will ever actually see.
You know what? You're right.
So
Uh, so Yano's like, I bet you Dobu's gonna do this too. He's gonna try and rob this kid, so let's rob him first. We need this money." And then Odaquan and Dobu are meeting, and they're talking about their plans to rob him as he's leaving the money. I almost said leaving the money with the bank. As he's leaving the bank with the money, and he reveals to him Odaqua's recording in his pocket, and he tells Dobu that Dobu tells him that the older Diamond brother is in, he's in his pocket.
yeah. Which he uses as leverage against the or for the younger brother to be like, hey, I told you.
Yeah, it's a big fucking "I told you so" on
Yeah.
his part.
Yeah. Um
Um,
the whole thing with this episode is like this is kind of the build up. Like this is where the build up really starts for the rest of the show.
yeah, I would agree.
And additionally, um we get the reveal that the guy that won the lottery posted a picture of it on like social media, is like with the ticket number visible. He's like, he gets back in Odakawa's taxi at one point. He's like, yeah, you probably shouldn't like post that online. He's like, well, I had to tell somebody.
Yeah, he that's it. In this episode, he talks to him about that, and he's like, "Yeah, you shouldn't have done that. Should not have done that at
Yeah.
all."
Yeah.
And he sends the audio recording to the younger brother, and then Otokowa realizes that Kakiana has been kidnapped. So then we are now on episode 9. Um, the younger brother is like, "Okay, I can't arrest my older brother on like based on this. Like I can't.
Yeah.
He's above me." Um, then we get this fucking scene with the hippopotamus, and he's in bed with like this. What is she, a bunny?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And she's like talking to him. She's like, a lot of people online say you're a fucking loser." He's laying there. He's just pissed. He's got like chest hair, and he's laying in bed. And she's like, "They say you're a fraud. You know that? They say you're a fraud." And he like loses his mind. He throws shit at her, and she leaves. And he gets this message, and um, He's like, "Hey, Dobu is gonna be at the wharf." Um, so Otakwa is taking Dobu over there, and they start getting shot at by Tanaka. He's in this white van, and they lose him. Dobu's like, "Go back for my gun." He's like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna die, thanks."
Mm.
Um, they get to the
Where
warehouse,
who's almost sounded
and then
Canadian for a sec.
yeah, for dude, for real. Dobu gets into a fight with the polar bear, and Odakoa goes in and he gets Kakeana, and then Dobu's shot in the leg by somebody we don't see,
Yeah.
and the hippo shows up and he's like standing over Dobu. He's taking a video of him. He's like, "Oh, look at this pussy," and then he like turns the camera on himself, the monologue, and Dobu's up and just beating the shit out of him. And he's like, "Please, please don't hurt me," and he's like, why shouldn't I?" He's like, "I just wanted clout."
Pretty much.
And dude was like, "All right, make a video. Uh, say you're sorry. I'm gonna take your car, and I'm gonna take your wallet, and I'm gonna throw your phone in the river, and then I'll let you live."
Mm.
And we see Dr. Goriki. He meets with the landlady, and she says that Otakwa has been supported by this mysterious foundation who paid for like his rent, his daily needs, and they're still paying for it. And Otakwa has been like almost all of the money he earns, he's been giving back to them. And he's like, "Oh, so when do you think his parents will be back?" And she's like, "His parents are dead."
Yeah.
Which through the first 8 episodes before this, Otakwa has been a few characters have asked him about his parents, and he talks about his parents are going to come back, and this is the first reveal that we get that they're both dead.
Yeah.
So then we move on to We Have No Tomorrow. Do you wanna start this one?
Give me a refresher real quick.
So this opens with the Homo sapiens comedy competition.
That's right. So is this the moment when they're like they're kind of like we should probably just split up? Is it
Um,
this moment
this
or
is when there's still or no, they did lose it. Yeah, this is then. But they also we get introduced to the giraffe.
yeah. There's actually a moment, I don't remember which episode it's in this one or not, where they're kind of discussing when they're going to like do their like practice for the comedy show. And the boar is talking to him and he's like, "Can you do this day?" He's like, "I can't, got a special appearance on this thing." Or how about the day after that? I got this other TV show. Day after that, talk show. Day after that, and he like it's a really depressing scene because
Yeah, it is.
it's just like he's got so much going on. Like he broke through, and the boar who wanted it, who in like the long run wanted it more, is still just stuck being like a waiter. Very depressing moment.
Yeah, it is.
But I
Uh,
feel like I got off topic there.
no, you're good. No, I agree with you. No, that's very true. And then the horse kind of gets his luck handed to him practically on a silver platter.
Yeah, just by chance of somebody saying, "Yeah, we want this one. We don't want the other one." Uh, anyway, so uh, this is before or after the comedy show.
This is it. We get some of like we see the giraffe in the crowd, and then they lose. I don't know. This isn't where they split up because remember, there's the losers bracket.
That's right.
They kind of talk about it a little bit, and the giraffe boy he goes up to the walrus, and he's like, "Hey, I'm the guy that's been writing you letters." And the walrus is like, "Go away."
You mean the boar?
Or the boar. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know why I said the
Yeah,
walrus.
he's like, yeah. So when they were like performing on like the radio together, they had this one person that kept sending them letters and being like, "You guys aren't that funny. You're terrible." Like he just harassed them basically, and he's about to get in the cab, and the giraffe shows up, and he's like, "It's me. I'm the one that's harassing you." And he's like, "I don't care."
Pretty much, he's like has this big thing. He's like, team up with me. He's like, no.
No, I don't want to.
Um. So after that, Imai, he puts up this Instagram post. He's like, "Hey, I lied about the lottery ticket," and Yano's rapping. He's like, "Yeah, he's lying again. He does have the lottery ticket. He's doing this because he realized he was stupid."
Yeah, he's like, look at this poor editing job. You can see where he scratched it out with like a white marker and then just covered it up with like letters. Then you look at the thing and you can see the where he didn't fully fill in the previous numbers. You can see like scratch marks where there's like black coming through from the letters, and then the new letters aren't even lined up. They're just strewn about.
Yeah, fucking just half-asses it completely.
Yeah,
Um, so Yamamoto gets in his taxi again, and he's like, "So about that dash cam data?" He's like, "Uh, go over here," and he like drives him out to this construction yard, and Otoko is like, "Hey, help me take down Yano," and he gets this belt, and he starts trying to strangle him, and then Shirakawa gets there, and she does her martial arts thing and kicks his ass.
yeah,
And he's like, "All right, I'll help take down Yano, but I want you to make sure Mystery Kiss is protected. I don't care what happens to me. I just this is my life's work." And he's like, "You know what?" Otakwa starts digging through his seat, and he's like, "GPS device."
yeah. Because
A
he
beachhead.
figures the way that the guy in the mask showed up the first time was he had to have like a GPS on him, and it would make sense at the first time he encountered him for him to break the window to take the phone that he planted back and then replace it with a batteryless GPS.
Yes. Um. So after that, trying to remember where we are. The GPS happens, and then Otakwa meets the big gangster guy, the taper, and he's like, I don't think you took that girl." He's like, "Yeah, I didn't."
Yeah,
um, so the polar bear, he's like, "Okay, it looks like Imai moved, so let me do this." And he's like going through all this like crazy shit, and he finds out his new location, and Yano like starts rapping. He's like, "Oh my god, like that's kind of creepy."
yeah, yeah. He's like, I don't know how you did that fast. It's kind of creepy that you could do that. I don't think I like it.
um, so they're like, "Yeah, okay, so we know where he is. That's good." And then Dobu and Otokowa meet again, and they start talking about the stages of the bank robbery, and they name their plan Odd Taxi.
Yep. We get the
And
name of the show.
yes, and their plan is basically they're going to give Yano one briefcase with real money. They're gonna like bribe the people that work at the bank, and then they're going to give them there's what 9 cases.
Yeah, I think there's 10 total, and they give one real one to Yano, and then the other 9 are full of counterfeits.
Yes, and Dobu's going to get one counterfeit, and then 9 real ones.
Yep.
And then Odako's like, "Oh, cool. So you'll be like satisfied." He's like, "Nah. Then we're gonna get the older Diamond brother to pull over Yano, and we're gonna take the 10th one too, just because I fucking hate him." And like, all right, cool. Um, so then Odaquwa goes to Yamato and Imai at different points, and he's like, "All right, so this is how this is gonna play out." And he tells Yamamoto, he's like, "I need you to make sure that Yano checks 2 briefcases." and I can't. What does he tell Imai to do? I know he says
Uh,
let yourself be taken.
yeah, he's basically just like just chill out, let it happen, and like you'll get out of this. Okay, we'll get them like you'll get money. What is it? I can't remember exactly what he says to him actually.
Yeah, I was trying to think. I know he tells him to do something. I think it was to tell that cop that I can't remember. I can't remember either. He
We're
gives
just
him a
grasping at
plan
straws here. Let's be real.
to.
That's what this whole podcast is built on: grasping at straws.
That's you know what that's partially true. Um, then the news comes on at the end of the episode and says that the body has been identified as Mitsuya, who was one of the singers in Mystery Kiss, and Otakwa like kind of under his breath he's like that's not her,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh that's weird. Um, the next episode is called If We Could Go Back to That Day, and I love the opening. We get this whole um, backstory for Nikaido, and there's a lot of big reveals in episode 11, but we get these really sweet moments between her and Baba, who is the horse comedian, them like having Christmas together, and it's really sweet stuff. They met and they were like insulting each other, and it's very sweet.
Yeah.
Um, then we get the reveal that Mitsuya was to be the lead singer of Mystery Kiss, and Nikaido was going to be one of the background girls who had to wear a mask. So Nikaido calls Mitsuya to meet her at Yamamoto's agency, and when she gets there, she finds Mitsuya dead.
Yep.
And she calls her manager, and her manager gets there, and he's like, fuck.
We
All
also
right, let's
get
call
this.
Yano.
We also get this kind of shocking reveal that her plan was to basically ask for her to not take the front position, um, and if she declined, she was going to kill her herself.
Yes, but somebody had already gotten to it first.
Yep.
So Yano's there. He's like, cool, let's dump this body. Pretty sure this girl's important, so we gotta hide it well. And they file a missing persons report, and the dad is revealed to be I'm pretty. Her dad is in the mob, right? Or her dad is friends with someone in the mob. Can't remember.
I don't remember, to be honest.
It's one of the two. But she has a connection to the mob,
Yeah.
and then Yamamoto introduces this new girl who I can't remember her name because from this point on we've known her as Mitsuya. They're like, she's gonna kind of be Mitsuya.
Yeah. This is the reason, like, we get the reason as to why the other two wear masks, and it's to hide the fact that it's not actually her.
Yes, it's not actually Mitsuya. Um, so then the missing persons report gets withdrawn. It's revealed that the only loose end is Otakawa's dashcam data.
Yep.
And we cut to Dobu, and he's telling him that the bank robbery. I don't know. I don't feel good. I don't feel good about this. He kind of has some like mixed feelings about it, and this is where the comedians break. It's right before they're gonna be in the losers bracket. Baba's like, "No, I'm done. Like I'm done with this." He walks away, and Goriki's doing his research, and he learns that Otakawa's Otakawa's parents died in a car crash in a forced double suicide,
Yep.
while Otakawa escaped on his own in critical condition. And then Mystery Kiss is like, fuck, we got to do a press conference. And Yamamoto's like, I'm sorry we lied. We just didn't want to cause panic. When we thought that she would be found. I'm sorry. And it's revealed that Mitsuya was that dude's daughter again. I can't remember. I'm pretty sure it's Don Reiku's daughter,
I
who
think
the
so.
eraser is built after, I believe.
Yeah.
Um, So the trying to remember what happens after that. I know that this is where we start to see the heist, right? Yanu and the polar bear have Ima in the back of their van.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought, and it ends with the reveal that Dobu is there as well, getting ready for the plan.
Yep.
All right, cool. I'm trying to keep these episodes straight, but these like last like 5 or 6 are really hard to
Yeah,
keep
there's a lot of
separate.
bouncing back and forth between some other characters. You lose the plot a little bit.
Yeah, it's got hard to keep track. So episode 12 is called Not Enough. Do you want to start off with this one, Mr. Toast?
Uh, sorry, which episode are we on now?
12.
Episode 12. We're getting there. We're almost there. um, so it starts out with like the beginning of the actual heist, doesn't it?
Yes. Well, we see them Yano picking up the suitcases.
Yeah. So Yana's picking up the suitcases, and they're like, "Okay, let's check out the first one, make sure it's got the real money." They look at it, and they're like, "All right, it's real money." And then they do like Yano's like, "Hey, we should definitely check the second one." It's like, let's not worry about it. They load up all the cases, get in the car, and take off. 2 seconds later, Dobu drives up, and they're like, "Okay, here you go." They load up the 10 with 9 real cases of money and 1 counterfeit. And he starts following after, because his plan was to split off, take the money to Otokawa. They load it up into a truck, and then Dobu heads over to the bridge where they're gonna get pulled over and get the last case. Um,
Yeah,
so
there during I'm gonna let you go. I just wanted to say, like during this time, we do get a couple of cuts to the comedy competition
yeah,
side plot, and they're doing like really good. And then the boar starts breaking down on stage in front of Baba, in front of the whole crowd. He's just like screaming. That's just that whole subplot summarized for right
yeah.
now.
That whole subplot, it kind of falls to the wayside a little bit here, to be completely honest, because the we have so much action going on with the actual heist going down.
Yeah, there is a lot more going on in the A story than the B story for sure.
Right. So Dobu meets up with Otokawa. They're loading the um the money into Otokawa's taxi. Is that right? Or no, they're loading
Uh,
it into like a van.
yes.
And Otokawa takes the GPS tracker from the from Tanaka and puts it in the van. Um, then they head over and they start Yano and the polar bear. They get pulled over, and what does he say to him? He says something funny, but I can't remember what it was.
He's like, let me check these suitcases or something like that, or what are you guys doing out here?
Yeah.
And
Oh yeah, they're like, yeah, we're just helping move this money. He's like, what do you mean helping move this money? He's like, hey, you won the lottery. We're just being good friends, helping move the money. He's like, you don't mind if I inspect this real quick, do you? And he pops up in one of the other cases, and he's like, this is newspaper. They're like,
uh,
no, no way.
and this is so good because Dobu gets up, he grabs the 10th suitcase from the older Diamond brother, and he drives off.
Yeah, and
And
at this exact moment, Yano is he's so distraught and upset, he stops rhyming altogether.
yeah, and the polar bear's like, "Sir, you stop rhyming."
He's like, I don't care.
um, so they drive back to the van, and Tonic is standing there holding the revolver, and Dobu's like, "He used up all 6 bullets. I'm gonna go whoop the shit out of this guy."
Yeah,
And he's walking up to him, and
we get this reveal as the Otokawa has the eraser that
yes,
he bid uh and or 100,000 yen on what is it, like 15 years.
Yeah, something like that. Because Shirakawa gave it to him, and she got it
Yeah,
from Dobu, I'm assuming.
yeah. And he's like, where did you get this? And he starts like kind of interrogating. He's like, um, does the game Zuden mean anything to you? It's like, Zuden? I don't even know about that game. Then he's like, does the name Ditch 11 mean anything to you? DITCH 11? He's like, I don't know, it doesn't ring a bell. Um, and we almost forgot to mention that Odokawa has this innate ability to just recognize somebody. Like he sees their face and he can memorize, like he memorizes them and can pick them out from wearing like a mask or anything like that. Um, and then it turns out that Dobu does have Zuden on his phone, and he pulls it up and he's looking at it. There's a silhouette. It's like every player has an icon, right? And he's like, yeah. He's like, and he pulls it up, looks at the silhouette, and he goes, yeah, that's Dobu. He's like, shit, I forgot that you could tell.
Yeah,
He's like,
but
how did
Tanaga's
you?
like
Oh yeah, you can tell.
Tanaga's like, "Oh, you're the guy, huh?" And he fucking just shoots him in the stomach,
Yeah.
and then takes off running and screaming,
He's like, how
and
did you have an extra bullet?
Odokawa, leaves Dobu for dead, and he's going to, leave the 9 suitcases of real money in the, van for Mai. He told that's what he told him where the real money would be.
Yeah.
Um, and then it's revealed that the older Diamond brother, Yano, and the polar bear beat the shit out of him. They stole his cop car, and they are driving after Odokawa,
Yep.
which is where we get into, where to, which is the big reveals and the final episode of the series. The episode opens with this narration. It's talking about Odokawa's life and about how when he was a kid, he loved going to the zoo. He always found it easier to talk to zoo animals than human beings, and just he was bullied at school. His parents weren't great people, especially his mom, and his parents commit double suicide, and he wakes up in this hospital, and all of the nurses and doctors around him look like animals.
Sorry to cut you off here really quick, but Moransky, thank you so much for the raid of 8 people. Welcome in, everybody. We're just discussing Odd Taxi tonight on the podcast. If you haven't heard of Odd Taxi, it's an anime that came out in spring of 2021. We're discussing the last episode here, so if you don't want spoilers, I hope you stick around. But at the same time, I understand if you don't want to.
Hey, everybody, welcome in. Uh, so it's revealed that throughout the entire course of the series, all of these people that we saw as animals were normal human beings, and Odokawa just saw them as animals, so the audience did as well.
Yep.
And we see Odokawa, he's driving away from Yano, and it's Christmas time, and all these crazy things are happening. And there's something I want to mention because it's really funny because you mentioned the bee story with the Homo sapiens kind of falling by the wayside.
Yeah.
Odokawa, at the end of this car chase, he flies off this bridge, kind of like Santa's sleigh, because this episode pretty much takes place on Christmas or around Christmas time. Yeah, it does, because Mystery Kisses CD was coming out on Christmas Day, and his taxi's flying over, and we see all these different characters, their point of view, and it cuts to the boar, and he's trying to have a heart to heart with Baba, and he's just like,
Yep.
"Am I getting interrupted by a taxi flying in midair?"
Yeah. It's a great moment because in this moment you're kind of just put at this like, oh shit, what's about to happen? And you see like all these characters seeing this taxi flying through the air with money spewing out of the trunk, and then it just cuts over and he's like, am I really being interrupted by a taxi?
And all the characters have their own different things. It looks like Tanaka's contemplating suicide. He's standing on this bridge. He's kind of looking down at the water, and he sees the taxi. It's a really good moment. And Shirakawa, she dives in and she pulls Otokawa out of the taxi and saves him from drowning. And Otokawa wakes up in the hospital, and everyone around him is human again, including himself. We finally get to see what all these characters look like in their human form.
We get a really great moment uh when he first wakes up in the ambulance, and um they're like, what do you see, like what is it? And then he sees her standing there, and he like walks up for a minute, tenses up, and they're like, what's wrong? He's like, really pretty. And they're just like, he still doesn't know how to talk to girls.
Oh, I love that. And it's revealed a little bit later on that the younger Diamond brother is the one that shot Dobu. A little bit of heroism from him. Nikaido is arrested as the murder suspect, and Yamamoto, Yano, and the polar bear are all arrested as well. Dobu is taken to the hospital and he's arrested. Uh, Imai gives Otokawa, I think he gives him what, 100 million yen?
um I think so. Sounds
And
right.
Otokawa is like, "What am I supposed? Like, I don't want this. What am I supposed to do with it?" He's like, "Come on, you can think of a use for 100 million yen." And he's like, "I've got an idea." And it's revealed that the big bad mobster guy that was in charge of Yano and Dobu has been supporting orphans for years. And he has this great speech to Otokawa, and he's kind of like, "You could say I'm a bad guy, you could say I'm a good guy. Doesn't matter. I've got my principles." And he's like, Dobu always said that there was like one rule that you guys had, and that he would never break it. He's like, what was the rule? And the Don is just kind of like, you don't kill people. It's a really nice moment.
Yeah.
Uh, so Odakoa gets home, and it's revealed that the whole time what was living in his closet was an actual cat.
Yep.
And he just had it in there. And we see Kakiana kind of working off his stuff. We get this cool montage of all the other characters like in their lives now. Goriki and Shirakawa, they're doing their doctor and nurse thing, and it's awesome. We see Imai, and he's living his best life, and we get this scene with Mitsuya, like this flashback. I can't remember if that's in this. I'm pretty sure it's in this episode, right before the end, where she's revealed to be the
Yeah.
one that
It's
murdered.
literally how the whole story ends.
Yes, it's revealed that she's the one that killed Mitsuya in the very beginning. It was not
Yeah.
Nikaido.
And it was because she was fourth, like, lineup. She didn't get picked out of the three, so she basically planned the whole thing, killed her so that she could become part of Mystery Kiss and be their third.
Yep.
uh
Uh,
it's such a like crazy reveal for that part, because like I don't know when you initially watched it or not, but when I was like, when we were watching it, I got to that point and I had completely forgotten about the murder at that point. So when we get the reveal, I'm like, oh shit.
yeah, there's so much going on. You kind of just it slips your mind for a minute,
Yeah.
and then when they pull you back in with that plot, you're just like, shit.
Yeah.
And we get this open ending. She gets in the cab, and he says, "Where to?" And she's just sitting in the back smiling. And it's clear that she wants to tie up loose ends.
Yeah.
We're not, you're not really sure of how it ends. There's this really cool thing that I didn't actually tell you about. I haven't listened to all of it, but there was an audio drama that ran concurrently with the anime, and it had 13 episodes as well. It would air on the same day as the episodes, and it would be from this bugged pen that you actually see in the series. Different characters change hands with this pen, and the audio series is all these conversations between characters that you hear because of the pen.
Yeah.
So it just like completely opens up the world even more. I don't know, it's a really cool detail.
Yeah.
and they included the pen and like everything. Um, the anime, like we were talking about earlier, um, it wasn't super popular. It won IGN's Best Anime Series of 2021. Uh, it won the 6th Crunchyroll Anime Awards for Best Protagonist for Otokawa and Best Director. But that was about all of the big accolades that it had, or a lot of the praise. The New Yorkers surprisingly called it one of the best TV shows of 2021. But other than that, it just kind of fell by the wayside for a lot of people.
Yeah. I don't know. I obviously I didn't watch it. I remember hearing you talk about it when it initially was releasing. Um, but like, I can understand how it flew under people's radar, but I really wish it hadn't.
Yeah, yeah, me too. And I guess we can start talking about what Sam had asked earlier about the differences seeing it all at once and seeing it over time. I feel like that this would be a good transition point for that.
Yeah.
Um, I'm gonna say my opinion on it
Okay.
first, having done both. I think it's better when it's spread out a little bit more.
Okay.
And the reason I say that is because I had so many good conversations when it was airing. I love shows like that. Gravity Falls was a big one when I was a kid. And I would talk to a lot of people at school about different theories and things going on.
Yeah.
I love a show where you can kind of theorize and have like a break. I feel like anymore we don't get a lot of that because most shows release in like bursts of 12 episodes. Either that or they release over a few weeks and people are just like,
Yeah.
I'll
That's a
wait
big
for it.
thing is you don't like the early 2000s to like 2000 like 10 or so. Most people still were, watching on cable, and anything new you had to wait a week for it to come out. And you would have that moment where like new episode would drop, say Friday night, and it's the talk of the weekend, right? You get through the week and everybody has these speculations. It's what do you think's going to happen in the next episode? Well, like, where do you think it's going to go from here? And with the culture that we have now, where everything is just binge a TV show, you kind of lose out on that speculation element. You lose out on that, like, let's have a discussion about what we think is going to happen. It's sad that that's gone, but at the same time, there's not much we can really do about it. I mean, nobody really wants to watch cable anymore.
No, I think there's like a interesting kind of nostalgia with cable, but
Yeah,
I don't think I would ever make the decision to go back to strictly cable just because it that's a whole fucking episode in and of itself. But
yeah. I think the big thing of it is like if it's like an episodic TV show where you can catch any episode and have the plot still going and it's fine, it's whatever. But when a show is serialized and is meant to be watched in order, like imagine starting Breaking Bad like halfway through season 3, be like, what the fuck is happening?
yeah, I think binging is good for catching up, but I don't know, it's so weird just because we're in like such a transition point right now for media in general, all kinds of media from, you know, this in the last I would say 15 years, media has changed more than it has in the 50, 60 years that home media was around, if that
Yeah,
makes sense. Because we just keep seeing all of these different ways to digest content coming up.
yeah. That is, I will say that is the one thing that Disney Plus gets right is that it doesn't just dump all of its episodes the same day. They space them out by a week. HBO as well with The Last of Us. So
It's really smart for Disney because if you like both Star Wars and Marvel, there's something coming out
yeah,
all year round. Was their like big plan? Like you could catch one of the shows like every week,
yeah,
so you'd always have to keep your subscription.
yeah.
Um,
But to get back on topic of the difference between having binge watched the show and having it spaced out, you got to speculate on stuff more and have discussions. about where you think the show is going to go, where the story's going to go. And it's more interesting as well because Odd Taxi didn't start as a manga, did it? It just went straight as an anime?
No, it was anime original, and they actually, a little bit after it was over, they started doing, like, a manga adaptation of it.
Yeah. Because that's a big thing as well with a lot of anime is that it starts out as a manga and then gets adapted into an anime. So there are people that read the manga and they know where the story is going to go, whereas people that just watch the anime don't know anything. The fact that it came out as strictly just an anime to start with lets you into that realm of like not binging it and you have to wait and see more of the story as the week goes on or as the weeks go on. Um, Whereas in our position, for the podcast, having watched it relatively quickly, I think we watched it what like a 2 or 3 episodes the first day, and then the next day we just like ran through everything.
Yeah, we
Um,
watched 2 the first day, and then
yeah,
the next, like, 11 the next day.
yeah, and it was great, but at the same time, it didn't leave room to ruminate and think about what the plot where the plot is going, what the subtle clues were, because by the I think it was the ninth or 10th episode, you're like, you have any predictions? And I'm just like, I really don't have anything because I'm getting all the information so quickly. I can't really formulate a theory, you know.
I remember a couple of the people I was talking to when I was watching it, we had around episode 7 or 8 come up with the theory that we thought that he was just seeing everyone as animals.
Mhm.
We developed that based on, like, different things that people had said, like, whenever he's, like, talking to Gorky, he's like, "Yeah, you look like a gorilla," and then he's talking
Yeah,
about, like, the calico cat and shit. We were like, "I feel like there's something to that,"
yeah.
but that you kinda lose that when you watch it all in one go because you don't get the time to stop and think about
I think
each episode.
another subtle clue that we get is that we see other animals like birds that aren't anthropomorphized, they're just birds. Additionally, we also have like the fact that they're looking at a picture of Otokawa's, like a brain scan of Otokawa, we get that as well to speculate like there's a mental thing going on here to start with. And it's very interesting to see because by the time that it gets revealed, I think I had figured it out before the full reveal. You also get the interesting fact that the comedy duo, they're called the Homo sapiens, but you don't see any humans.
Very true as well.
Yeah. um so it's very interesting to like you start speculating on it as it unravels.
Um, yeah, I think it works better if you kinda space out a little bit. You don't necessarily have to go week by week for every episode, but I would just do, like, 2 or 3,
Yeah,
every 2 or 3 days.
I think if you watch the first 2 episodes and then you let that ruminate for a little bit, and then I'd say watching the next three, stopping and like kind of do it that way for the rest of it is 1 or 2 to 3 episodes, and then space it out a day or two, and then like keep going.
Yeah,
Um,
just to kinda let your thoughts run
yeah.
wild on it and think about,
Yeah, because
theorize on it.
I can only imagine when you're watching it air weekly, seeing the scene when Tanaka gets like you see him drop his phone, you see the bird on the screen, and then that's all you get. How long you speculated on that? You're probably just like, what did that mean?
Yeah, no, I was 'cause I recognized him from the intro too.
Yeah,
So I was like, "Who is this guy?" And then that next episode but no, I completely agree. I think that's a good way, to go about it.
yeah.
Sa what was Sam's other question? Or did you have something else you wanted to say on that?
I think what was it? Um, at the what did sorry why you think they chose the animals for each of the not obvious characters?
So I think they chose the hippo because hippos kinda look inflated and his ego was very inflated.
True.
Um, Let me think. Who else? I don't know why Dobu was depicted as a baboon. Maybe it's because he's a little foolish. I don't he's a silly little guy, I don't know.
Maybe.
That's probably why Kakeana looks like fucking Boots from Dora.
Yeah. Um, as for
Gorky's
Yano is a
Yana.
porcupine.
I He compares himself to a porcupine a few times.
True. I think
Like,
it's um because I don't think he's an aggressive character per se, right? Whereas like a porcupine, the purpose of their quills is self-defense, but in Yano's case, it's not really self-defense.
yes, I completely.
Maybe it's more appearance. Like, maybe it's that.
That could be because some of them are appearance and some of them are definitely like
There's
the
more to
way
the
they are.
character. Yeah.
Like all of the cats are sneaky.
Yeah.
Did you notice that? They're
Yep.
all kind of like sneaking around and doing different things. Kakiana, we talked about Kakiana. Goriki is just because he looks like that. Same with Shirakawa is the alpaca.
Yeah.
Um, I think making the brothers as dogs is partially based on look, partially based on their personalities,
Yeah.
because they're both loyal to the things that they believe in, kind of like how dogs are loyal.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. I can see it.
I'm trying to think
Um,
of who else.
what do you think of Otokawa as a walrus?
I think it's kind of sad that he sees himself that way,
Yeah.
because that's definitely based on because he doesn't really look like that.
No.
I think it's entirely how he pictures himself,
How he
which is really sad
perceives.
that
Yeah.
yeah, he gets the one that most people will like be like, "Oh, you're a fat walrus." Like
Yeah. That's what he
that's
had in his
kinda
notebook. That's interesting. Yeah. Um,
I think
hmm.
that's pretty much everybody. I mean, there's a couple other characters, but none that are really that important,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. Not
Um,
that I can think of.
so for the rest of the year for 2023, we've got 2 episodes left, uh, at some point that we'll be releasing this month.
Yeah.
The first episode is going to be television Christmas specials. We're gonna have some
Yeah.
specials picked out that we're gonna watch.
We were gonna try and do the 12 Christmas specials. That's
Yeah,
we're
the
kind of like
12 Days of Christmas specials.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's it.
and we'll do that episode for you guys, and then we're gonna do a 2023 best of, just kind of a wrap up episode for the year, talking about some of our highlights for the year, some of our low points, and just kind of celebrating the first year of the podcast,
Yeah,
and
we
then we will
also I'd also like
have
to
okay.
discuss like some of our milestones with the podcast as well. So
Yeah, that'd be cool. That's actually a great idea for that episode. And then do you guys have any specific specials picked? We do.
we
Uh,
have a few we haven't speculated. So we're gonna do 6 each, but we haven't picked out all of them just yet.
yeah,
I think you've got a few more picked out than I do at the moment. I think I've got 2 or 3 maybe. So
yeah, and I've got like 4 or 5 picked out, but they're gonna be a wide variety, just some of our personal favorites.
yep. And some of mine might not even just be personal favorites. It's just ones that I like. It's more enjoyable. Like I could just watch that one, you know.
Yeah. Um, there was something I wanted to say. Oh, for 2024, we are planning to do another kind of big project at some point, kind of like we did with AOT, where we have how many episodes do we have for AOT? 6? Something
um,
like that? 5?
I think 6.
5 or 6. Um, we
We
kind of want to
did.
do. Are you looking?
Not I can, but
Let me look here.
let's put. Oh,
I can pull it up. Okay. So why is YouTube doing that to me? Okay.
um,
Um,
1, 2, 3, 4,
5.
5. Yeah,
Yeah, we
we've
did. So
done
we did
5
5.
episodes. That's
Yeah, we had
that's
a
blown
couple
my
that covered a
mind.
lot.
We did like
It
the
just
entirety of season 3 in one episode,
yeah, we did. I feel like
which
we really rushed the season 3 one. Like, look at
yeah,
that timestamp,
yeah.
and then compare it to like our final. Well, no, our final one's not that long either.
Well, the final
How did
one we covered. Final chapter part 2. Oh no,
And the final uh
we do
the
final
final specials.
season part 2, and then the final specials part 1 and 2.
That's wild. How the hell did our Odd Taxi episode become like 45 minutes longer than the entirety of season 3?
I don't know. It's a great question.
Uh, either we're getting better at discussing this or we're getting worse with wasting everyone's time.
Oh Lord.
So we're gonna do a big series like that again. We have some ideas floating around. I know some of the ones that we have floated around. One of them was The Wire. We were thinking about doing a more traditional television series because
Yeah,
we haven't really done a whole lot with TV. Um, so we were thinking about. I know The Wire was one that we were considering. Succession was another one we were
yeah,
considering, and there was a couple others too. If you guys have any thoughts on that or anything you want to see us talk about, it could even be for smaller episodes.
yeah. In the Discord, the Toaster Discord, if you haven't joined yet, I did just create a new channel specifically for podcast questions. That's also open to suggestions as well. So
Were we like reading each other's mind? When did you do that? Just
last
now?
week
You did that last
I
week?
did.
That's wild. Because
Yeah,
I was thinking about that a couple days ago. It's like it'd be cool if we
yeah.
got something like.
There'll be a link for the Discord down in the description on the YouTube channel, and I think I can do a link in the Spotify description as well. So
Oh, very cool.
those will be
So
available at your leisure to do whatever you want. Just ask us questions about the podcast, make some suggestions if you want to. Let us know what you think.
I think that's about all we have for this one. I know we've got our Christmas special episode coming up pretty soon for TV, so be on the lookout for that. And other than that, that's all I have. I hope you guys have a fantastic evening.
Yep. Like, comment, and subscribe.
Dude.
You gotta say it once, right? We've never
I got
said it at all throughout the entire time we've done this. It has to be on YouTube at least once.
This is our one use of it.
One use, like, comment, subscribe. All
All
right.
right. Thank you guys so much for watching.
You all have a fantastic evening. Thank you.